Every act of love you perform is a lie. Every gesture of affection, every word of care, every moment when you reach toward another soul, all of it corrupted by the desperate hunger that drives it. You call it love, but it is begging. You call it intimacy, but it is theft. The person lying beside you in bed, the friend who listens to your secrets, the parent who shaped your first understanding of connection, none of them have ever truly seen you. Because you have never allowed yourself to be seen. You have only shown them the performance, the carefully constructed version of yourself designed to extract what you crave most, their approval, their attention, their love. This is the great deception of human connection. We believe we are connecting when we are only negotiating. We think we are loving when we are only trading. Every conversation becomes a transaction, every touch a contract, every shared moment a bargaining session where vulnerability is currency and affection is the prize. Your entire emotional world has been built on this foundation of sand, the belief that love is something you can earn, something you can deserve, something you can capture and keep if only you perform well enough, sacrifice deeply enough, make yourself indispensable enough to those whose love you desperately seek. But what if I told you that true intimacy, the kind that transforms souls and burns away the pretense, begins only when you stop this ancient dance of need? What if connection itself was never about being loved at all? What if everything you believe about relationships, about human bonding, about the very nature of love itself, has been a magnificent illusion that keeps you forever separated from what you truly desire? From the moment you drew your first breath, you were taught that love was scarce. Your mother's tired eyes when you cried too long, your father's conditional praise when you achieved what he valued, the playground hierarchies that determined who belonged and who was cast out, all of it whispered the same lie. You must earn love. You must perform for connection. You must make yourself lovable or face the abyss of abandonment. So you learned to contort yourself into shapes that pleased others. You discovered which smiles opened doors, which words brought warmth, which versions of yourself were welcomed, and which were rejected with cold silence or angry words. You became a master of the great performance, sculpting your personality like clay in the hands of others' expectations, losing yourself piece by piece in the desperate attempt to become someone worthy of love. This is what you call your loving nature, this desperate, unconscious choreography of need. When you comfort someone, beneath the genuine care lies the trembling question, do you see how good I am? Do you love me now? When you sacrifice for others, the sacrifice itself becomes a currency, a down payment on the affection you hope to receive. When you listen to their problems, part of you is already calculating whether this investment of attention will yield the emotional returns you crave. You have been conditioned to believe that this hunger is natural, even beautiful. Look how much they care, others say when they see your anxious attention to their needs. Look how selfless they are, they whisper when they witness your endless giving. But this caring comes from emptiness, not fullness. It comes from the terrified child within you who learned that being unloved meant being unsafe, being invisible, being nothing at all. The cruelest truth is that this very hunger repels the very thing it seeks. People sense desperation the way animals sense fear, as a threat to be avoided, a weakness to be exploited, or at best, a burden to be endured. The more you need their love, the more you push it away. The more you perform, the less they trust you. The more you try to be lovable, the more you become someone who cannot truly be loved. Because no one can love a mask. No one can connect with a performance. No one can be intimate with a ghost of unmet needs. Your relationships become battlefields, where two desperate armies face each other across a no-man's land of unspoken demands. Each person fighting to get their needs met while pretending to meet the other's needs. Each person performing love while starving for authentic connection. Each person giving in order to receive, loving in order to be loved, connecting in order to be accepted. This is why your deepest relationships often feel so hollow, why even in the arms of someone who claims to love you, you feel profoundly alone. Because you are not being loved, your performance is being applauded, You are not being seen. Your mask is being admired. You are not being connected with. Your usefulness is being utilized. Alan Watts understood what the mystics have always known, that the ego's desperate search for love is the very thing that makes love impossible. For love, true love, authentic connection cannot exist between two hungry ghosts, two desperate performers, two souls pretending to be what they think the other wants. Love, like water, flows only toward emptiness. It cannot fill what is already. Grasping cannot nourish what is already demanding to be fed. The person who needs to be loved creates around themselves an invisible barrier, a field of desperation that keeps others at arm's length, even as they seem to draw them close. This is the fundamental paradox that Western psychology has never understood. The more you need something, the less capable you become of receiving it. The more you chase love, the more it eludes you. The more you try to be intimate, the more isolated you become. It is like trying to catch your own shadow. The very act of pursuit ensures that what you seek remains forever just out of reach. In the Eastern traditions, this is called the Pathless Path, the gateless gate, the effortless effort. They understood that enlightenment cannot be achieved by trying to be enlightened, just as love cannot be found by trying to be loved. Both require a fundamental letting go, a radical surrender of the very impulse that seems to drive the search. The Buddha spoke of tanha, the thirst that is the root of all suffering. This is not just the thirst for material things, but the deeper thirst for psychological security, for emotional validation, for the confirmation from others that we exist, that we matter, that we are worthy of love. This thirst turns every relationship into a feeding ground, every connection into a source of supply, every intimate moment into an opportunity to extract the nourishment the ego believes it needs to survive. But here is what the sages discovered. You do not need to be loved to exist. You do not need to be seen to be real. You do not need to be validated by others to be worthy. These are illusions created by a mind that has forgotten its own nature, a heart that has lost touch with its own fullness, a soul that has been taught to believe it is separate from the love it seeks. The deepest philosophical truth about intimacy is this: it is not something you create or achieve. It is something you discover by removing everything that prevents it. Like a sculptor who does not add to the stone but only removes what is unnecessary, intimacy emerges when you stop adding your needs, your expectations, your performance to the pure fact of being with another. But there is another way. A way that few discover because it requires the courage to walk naked through the world, unarmored by need, unprotected by the strategies that once promised safety. This way demands that you die to everything you thought you knew about love, about connection, about what it means to be human in relationship with other humans. Imagine a love that gives not because it lacks, but because it overflows. Imagine connecting with others not from the emptiness of need, but from the fullness of being. This is not the love of merchants, trading affection for affection, keeping careful accounts of who owes what to whom. This is the love of the sun, which shines not because it wants something in return, but because shining is its nature, its joy, its very essence. When you stop trying to be loved, something miraculous happens. You become lovable, not in the way you imagined, not through performance or perfection or the careful management of others' perceptions, but through the simple authenticity of a person who no longer needs anything from others. Your presence becomes a gift instead of a demand. Your attention becomes freely given instead of strategically deployed. Your care becomes pure instead of contaminated by hidden agendas. This is intimacy born from strength, not weakness. When you no longer need the other person to complete you, to validate you, to love you, you can finally see them clearly. Not as a potential source of what you lack, but as they actually are. Another human being struggling with their own mysteries, carrying their own light and shadow, walking their own path through the labyrinth of existence. From this place of inner fullness, your love becomes like a river that has found its way to the sea. It flows freely, abundantly, without calculation or expectation. When someone receives this love, They feel no obligation to return it, no pressure to be anything other than what they are. And paradoxically, this is when they begin to love you back, not because they must, but because they can. The person who no longer needs to be loved becomes magnetic in ways that desperation never could. Others are drawn to this freedom, this lack of demand, this presence that asks for nothing, and therefore makes everything possible. In your stillness, they find permission to be still. In your acceptance of yourself, they discover the possibility of accepting themselves. In your freedom from need, they catch a glimpse of their own potential liberation. This love does not diminish when it is given. It does not become depleted when it is not returned. It does not become possessive when it is treasured or bitter when it is rejected. It simply is, like sunlight, like rain, like the breath that flows through your lungs without your permission or control. When you love from this place, relationships transform from negotiations into celebrations, from contracts into dances, from sources of supply into spaces of mutual revelation. You no longer relate to others as objects to be acquired or resources to be consumed, but as fellow travelers on the great journey of consciousness, each carrying their own piece of the cosmic puzzle, each reflecting back to you some aspect of the infinite mystery you yourself are. Yet even this must die. Even this beautiful love, this overflowing connection, this intimacy born from wholeness, it too must be released. For the moment you grasp it, the moment you make it into an identity, a virtue, a way of being special or superior to those still trapped in need, it becomes another performance, another mask, another strategy for getting what you want. The deepest teaching is not about becoming someone who loves freely. It is about discovering the space in which love appears and disappears like clouds in an empty sky, like waves rising and falling in an infinite ocean, like thoughts arising and dissolving in the vast silence of awareness itself. Sometimes you will love greatly, your heart expanded beyond all boundaries, connected to everything that exists. Sometimes you will feel nothing at all, empty and alone, seemingly cut off from all warmth and connection. Sometimes you will be intimate and open, transparent as glass, available to be touched by life in all its forms. Sometimes you will be closed and distant, protected by walls you did not even know you were building. All of this is the natural rhythm of existence, the breathing of the universe itself. To resist any part of this rhythm is to create suffering. To cling to the moments of connection is to poison them with attachment. To fear the moments of solitude is to miss their gift of regeneration and renewal. There comes a time when even the most enlightened lover must retreat into silence, not because they have failed, but because they have succeeded too well. The ego is cunning. It will even make an identity out of selfless love, a performance out of authentic being, a strategy out of the very freedom that transcends all strategy. The only way to remain free is to periodically die to even your highest achievements, your most beautiful ways of being, your most precious spiritual attainments. In the Tao, they speak of the sage who accomplishes great things and then withdraws, who loves deeply and then disappears, who gives everything and then becomes invisible. This is not coldness, this is wisdom. For love, like all things, must have its seasons. There must be times of connection and times of solitude, times of giving and times of emptying, times of presence and times of absence. The mature soul knows when to love and when to let go, when to connect and when to retreat into the silence that regenerates all things. In this silence, the false self dies again and again, and each death makes possible a more authentic resurrection, a more genuine love, a more real intimacy. This is the paradox that few understand. The person who can live without love is the only one who can truly love. The person who can be alone is the only one who can be truly intimate with others. The person who needs nothing is the only one who can give everything. The person who can disappear is the only one who can truly be present. In the end, even the teaching must be abandoned, even the wisdom must be forgotten, even the love must be released. What remains is not a person who has learned to love without need, but the space in which both love and need arise and pass away, the eternal witness, the unchanging awareness, the silence that is pregnant with all possibilities. So I invite you now to make a choice that will change everything. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when you have figured out how to do it perfectly, but in this moment, as you sit here confronting these words that are confronting the deepest assumptions you hold about love, about relationships, about what it means to be human. Choose to stop trying to be loved. Choose to release the exhausting performance, the careful choreography of need, the desperate dance that has kept you spinning in circles of dissatisfaction for so long. Choose instead the terrifying freedom of needing nothing from anyone, of being complete in yourself, of loving from fullness rather than emptiness. This is not easy. Your entire conditioning will rebel against it. Every cell in your body has been programmed to seek love, to need connection, to fear abandonment above all other fears. The voices in your head will scream that this is impossible, that this is selfish, that this will lead to loneliness and isolation and a life devoid of meaningful connection. But beneath this programming lies your true nature. Vast, complete, already whole, already connected to everything that exists. You are not separate from love. You are love itself, temporarily convinced that you are something else, something small and needy and insufficient. The invitation is to remember what you are beneath all the forgetting, to recognize what you have always been beneath all the seeking, to return home to what you never actually left beneath all the journeying. Write these words as your commitment, as your declaration of independence from the tyranny of need. I choose the love that needs nothing in return. Let these words be your first step into the freedom that makes real intimacy possible, your gateway to the love that transforms everything it touches simply by being itself. When you live from this place, relationships become not destinations, but journeys, not achievements but discoveries, not needs fulfilled but gifts freely given and received. You become someone others can truly love. Not because you demand it, but because you make no demands at all. Not because you earn it, but because you have stopped trying to earn it. Not because you deserve it, but because you have transcended the entire economy of deserving. The universe has been waiting your entire life for you to make this choice, for you to step into this freedom, for you to become who you really are beneath all the masks and performances and desperate strategies. It has been preparing this moment of recognition, this opportunity for liberation, this chance to remember what you forgot so long ago. You cannot even remember the forgetting. The sun does not try to shine. The river does not try to flow. The heart does not try to beat. And you, the real you, do not need to try to be loved. Love is what you are when you stop trying to be anything else, when you stop performing anything else, when you stop seeking anything else. In the end, intimacy is not about being seen by others. It is about being so thoroughly yourself that seeing becomes unnecessary. Love is not about being completed by another. It is about being so complete that love becomes your nature, not your need. Connection is not about finding someone who understands you. It is about understanding yourself so deeply that all of life becomes your companion. All of existence becomes your lover. All of reality becomes your home.